I heard that they've lost any control they had over you in the dream state, and this is the fall of the false matrix mean girl templates. My name is Solarah. I am a seer. I am a code keeper. I am a timeline reinstator. I am a liberator of those who have been wrongfully spiritually oppressed. I am a new earth being, and as my beloved refers to me, I am a spiritual data scientist. I welcome you here today if you are an ally in this cause of liberating souls from the false matrix so that they may rise again into their true organic templates and destinies. So I have a lot of downloads or a lot of notes to get through today. I don't know if I'm going to pull cards. We'll see how it goes, but I'm going to warn you ahead of time, especially those of you who are new here in these parts. I'm quite verbose. I am a Virgo ascendant. I like to go into information and to pick it apart and to get to the root cause and to share that information in such a way that it resonates and it becomes simplified and digestible. And that's what we're going to do today, because this download, it encompasses so much, and it's been unfurling for me over the past couple of weeks. And I want to say that today is the 24th of June as I record this. It is the third and final 6/6 portal of the month, and the first one in Cancer season. And the 6/6 portal is very significant in connection with these downloads, because the numbers 6 and 9, they speak of divine feminine realignment of grids. And this is why the Cancer glyph is actually a 6/9 that has been turned over onto the side. And, many of you know that, the whole Nikola Tesla 369 theory, right? And that everything ultimately is frequency. But everything is frequency that interconnects to become codes. And those codes work through the alignment of grids that then create cycles and timelines. And Cancer is very, very significant. The zodiac sign of Cancer, as well as the tropic of Cancer, very, very significant for the formation of these matrices that then connect to these codes that create timelines and cycles. So when we enter into Cancer season and any major transit through Cancer, we are actually dealing with like the primordial stuff of creation. I will often say that Cancer helps us, Cancer season, Cancer energy helps us to rewrite and regrid the literal motherboard of our existence. And because frequency is measured in emotion, it actually helps us to reprogram our emotional body, because all things come through the waters, all things are born through your emotions. As a creator, as a conscious creator. But even when you weren't consciously creating, you were creating through the thoughts that were connecting with the emotions. The strongest emotional pulse that propelled that thought was how you would then create your material reality, your cycles, and your timelines. And most of that was built upon a motherboard that was instated in you through your maternal line, and very specifically through the emotional energy under which you were conceived and under which you gestated in while your mother was carrying you in utero. And then later on, the emotional energy that you were propagated under once you were born, very specifically through the feminine energy that flowed through her as your mother, as well as your father also. But your mother holds the programming over your emotional body. Okay, and we're going to get into that today and the significance of that, and some of the things in the false matrix that were designed very specifically to program you against yourself, and how it used motherhood very specifically to program humanity into distorted, dysfunctional, discordant states. Okay, so I know that's a lot. This is, just so you know, this is a soul-led space for reclamation of your power, of your truth, of your true organic templates. Okay, so that's what I endeavor to create in any space that I lead and in any way that you interact with me. Okay, so let's get into this. Let me pull out my phone. Okay, so I'm going to begin by sharing with you some dreams that I had that have really contributed to what I've put together for you today in terms of the downloads and how I've been channeling some of these messages. So I had 2 dreams, and these 2 dreams occurred on the first 6/6 portal. And so there was one dream where I was being ganged up on by a woman that I knew. So this woman, I had a history with. We were never friends. She was a lady who was a teacher at the school where my children once attended. She was a head teacher over there. And in the beginning, she was very magnetized to me. And this was many years ago. And I wasn't really in my power at the time. I still was very, very wounded. I had that people-pleasing desire, you know, that constantly having to prove myself and be super nice to people, because even though she was very magnetized to me, I could still discern that there was an underlying energy of judgment. Let's put it that way. And judgment partially because I was a single mother, right? My kids were attending a Christian school at the time. She was a woman who was married, and I think she had like maybe 5 kids. And she came to me because at the time I was studying to be a herbalist. I am a trained Western medical herbalist as well as a naturopathic chef, and my focus was functional nutrition for mental health and neurology. So I was very, very driven to find nutritional and holistic preparations and remedies for people who've struggled with what they call in the false matrix mood disorders, mental and emotional issues, because a lot of that is very much rooted in nutrition, as well as a whole bunch of other things, which is what brings me down, the spiritual road of talking about all of this. But my desire, my heart's desire, even when I was pursuing the path of naturopathy and holistic medicine, was the desire to see people returned to wholeness. Because I knew from my own experience, having struggled with depression and anxiety and being misdiagnosed and only finding out a lot later in life that I actually am what they would call on the spectrum, which is really just a fancy way of them isolating high frequency beings and medicalizing our gifts, right? Because I dealt with so much fuckery in the world of psychiatry, therapy, etc., I really wanted to find a way to integrate all manner of therapies to help people come back to wholeness, including nutrition, physical exercise, all of that stuff, right? And I'm not poo-pooing on therapy. I just completed a course of therapy. I think trauma-informed therapy is amazing. I really do. I don't poo-poo on it at all. But I will say that a lot of the therapies I was in, they were designed to gaslight me in my trauma and make me feel as if I was sick instead of traumatized, right? So this particular woman, over the years, I began to realize that she was like sending evil eye to myself and to my children. And it took me a really long time to realize that it was envy-based, because, I was one of those people, probably very much like you, who I've been through so much hardship in life. I spent so many years battling with depression and anxiety that I had very low self-worth. And so to think of somebody envying me for any reason, especially within the Christian community where I was a single mother and therefore kind of looked down upon, it didn't cross my mind. So I initially was just like, oh, there's something wrong with me. But this was in the beginning also of my awakening and my psychic abilities coming on board. And they came in very strongly to the point where my telepathic my telepathic abilities, they just, whoop, they went off. And I could actually begin to, unfortunately, tune into her thoughts and realize they weren't mine towards me at a certain point. So she had this vindictive energy that she was projecting towards me. And so in this dream, I'm in there with a group of women, and I'm trying to leave the house. We're in a house, and I'm trying to leave the house with a group of women. I'm galvanizing an escape or some kind of field trip. And it seems we've been working on the house, like we've been doing some kind of building renovations in the house. And this woman in my dream, the one from my past, she had a lot of anger towards me in the dream, and it felt like she was trying to get the other women to go against me, right? She was like utilizing tactics like, gossip and defamation to try to shift the way that they saw me and the way they interacted with me, because it was clear in the dream that I had some kind of, I wouldn't call it leadership, but they looked to me, right? I was kind of in charge of something. It was clear. And at some point in the dream, I remember engaging with this woman who was, had so much hatred towards me. And I just spoke to her in the dream. And it shifted her energy towards me slightly in the atmosphere. She became a little bit more receptive. I don't remember what I said to her in the dream. I didn't confront her in any way. I think in some way I probably tried to appease her. So in the dream, I'm getting ready to leave the house with the women. And as I go down the stairs, I'm going down the stairs to the front door of the house, which is right in front of the stairs. And to the left of the front door is like a little powder room. And so I go into the powder room, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I see that I have bronze paint over my left shoulder and a few streaks of white paint, almost like war paint. Really beautiful, right? And I get to the door after seeing my own reflection, and I wake up. But I felt like, as I woke up, I felt like I should have exited the door in the dream. But I think what was really important at that point, this was weeks ago, is that I got to the door. Even though, in the dream I was only going on an excursion with these women, but I got to the door. And I also saw myself decked out, right? So the same day on the 6/6 portal, I fell asleep again. And this time, in dream time, I am witnessing a group of celebrities that are arriving at some type of daytime awards or industry function or celebration. And the only one I remember in the dream very vividly is a very famous actress. I'm not going to put her name out there, right? And in this woman, in reality, in real time, she's like maybe, I think she's in her 60s or her 70s, a really wonderful actress, right? But in this dream, she's younger. And she walks towards another actress, and she tells her that she needs to speak to her. But she tells her in a very menacing kind of intimidating way, like trying to bully her into talking to her. And she's threatening, but she's not raising her voice. It's more with her intonation and with her facial expressions. I can see from the interaction that she's trying to exert power over her. And I think both of them were wearing knee-length summer celebration dresses, right? And I believe they were yellow. So the actress says no, and she walks away, or she gesticulates that she's not interested by walking away from her. And this other actress, the famous one, is pestering her. And when that doesn't work, when she's not able to twist her arm to get her to do what she wants her to do, which is to talk to her, she finds a group of other female celebrities, and she starts gossiping about this other young actress. And she's saying she's done something to her, and now she won't talk to her. And you can tell that she's making it up for attention, and that she is, embellishing in order to shift the way that these other actresses are viewing this other lady who won't talk to her. You can tell that she's trying to devalue her and pull her down. And she is making out like this other actress who won't talk to her is guilty of something grave, and that she's also being very unreasonable in not speaking to her. So the other actresses immediately side with her, and they start gossiping about this other young lady. And so in the dream, I'm kind of on the outskirts, but I'm there. And so I start to say something to the group to intervene. And one of the ladies in the group, she responds to me. One second. And she's watching the other actress who said no, who's walked away, right? She's watching this other actress, and she's saying that she must be guilty of what this celebrity actress is saying, because she's acting so calm and nonplussed. So she must be guilty, right? And and because she's ignoring this older actress who, let's be real, she has some kind of seniority and prestige and status, and therefore influence that she's wrongfully using. And so these women, this group of women that are agreeing and gossiping about this other actress, are very drawn in by her status. And so they're instantly not being critical in their thinking. They're instantly siding with her and finding a reason why she's right and why the other actress is in the wrong. And in this dream, I'm trying to talk, but I feel something trying to stop me. And I woke up like feeling the physical sensation and enacting the physical sensation that is actually silencing me in the dream. But I didn't only wake up to find myself like almost gagged. I woke up and my whole left neck, my shoulder, my upper shoulder, and my jaw were stiff, and they were throbbing in pain, and my whole body felt off, right? But only on the left side. And I want to remind you also that in the first dream, the powder room I went into, which was the house, and houses in dreams can often represent an energy field, it was on the left-hand side, okay? So, make of that what you will. I'm not going to discern for you everything that was being shown to me from those dreams. But I'm going to tell you that's where a lot of these downloads are coming from. So we're going to get into that. But the main download, they've lost any control they had over you in dream state. It came to me a few nights ago when I had another dream. And I won't go through the fullness of the dream because it's more personal. But as I was, waking up and making sense of it, I was brought back to these dreams, and I was shown the importance of the 6-6 portal in correcting this mean girl, this false matrix mean girls template that is actually rooted in the maternal hatred that was propagated through mothers very purposely in the false matrix. We're going to get into that also. In this dream, there was a person who has been one of my main bullies in life, who in every dream I've been in up until recently, I haven't been able to speak. In the same way, in that second dream, I was gagged and I couldn't speak, and I woke up physically not able to for a minute. I've had this kind of I want to say like gagging order that's been placed upon me energetically by this person that I've been working through and breaking through. And I broke through it in this most recent dream. And I realized they no longer have that kind of control over me anymore in the 4D, which means that materially things are going to start shifting, because this is a person who's had big influence over my emotional body. Let's put it that way. So in this dream, I was finally able to speak up and to speak out against them. And not only that, but everything they were trying to do against me in the dream that once had been hidden. You know how like when you're working with these energies, they try to do things subtly and to hide it without your realizing what it is, so that you fall into the trap of reacting, or you fall into the trap of thinking there's something wrong with you, or you think that whatever is happening, it's because of you in some way, when there's someone in there stirring the pot. So this was the scenario I've been dealing with this person. But what was occurring in this dream is that everything that they once tried to hide, I was one step ahead of them. I was getting all the information ahead of time, so I could do what I had to do in order to shift myself or to call them out, which I did. And the dream finished with me setting a boundary at the front door. Setting a boundary at the front door of what was able to pass and come in. And not only pass and come in, but in the dream I was very specific. I set the boundary so that anything that sought to siphon me and to come into that door, it would automatically give me back everything it was trying to siphon and had. And in the dream, the people who were coming to visit were two other females that have been part of this kind of like three-woman consortium my whole life that have bullied me out of my power. And I took that power back in the dream, and I set a boundary at the door. And I want to remind you that oftentimes in dreams, doors are energy fields. And when you're able to begin to do that in dream state, you are taking back your authority that maybe once upon a time you lost and you didn't even know you had. Okay, so I'm going to repeat. They've lost any control they had over you in dream state, and it is the fall of the false matrix mean girl template. And the 6-6 portals that have been occurring have been very significant in this shift. And the 6-6 portal today in Cancer season, the season where we regrid and recode our emotional bodies, or we have the power to. There's something very significant that's happening right now for many of us, where the control that something other people once had over our emotional bodies. Your dreams are connected to your emotional body, just a reminder. They've lost it, and you're taking back authority. And that's so important. I'll tell you why. Your dream space isn't coincidental. Your dreams are divinely designed for you to be able to have a canvas to create cosmically from the infinite energies that come through, that are supposed to stream through on the earth freely, and that you have access to in accordance with your own sacred coding, meaning who you are on a cosmological level. Your dreams are designed to help you create the reality you desire to materialize using the infinite cosmic energies you have access to because of who you are. In other words, they are the templates that create your material timelines, which is why in the false matrix, they love to intercept you there. They love to bind you there. They love to veil you there and to do all kinds of shenanigans where they limited you in your own emotional body. And then in the physical, you were traumatized familially, systemically, socially, in order to reinforce what they were already doing to you on the dreamscape. Okay, so I've got a lot of notes. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the mean girl gang stalking programs of the false matrix work, and how programmed maternal hatred propagates, potentializes, and perpetuates this. And let's talk a little bit about Cancer season obliterating these true foundations by way of helping you to now have the access to regrid and recode your literal motherboard. In other words, the foundations of your emotional body that set the tone for all the cycles and the timelines that you create. So oftentimes your mother is your first mean girl, and her mother was hers. The matrilineal legacy holders become gateway initiators in this form of feminine-based bullying. It occurs in both men and women, but is more obvious in women and more predominant because it is rooted in distorted feminine energy, aka the false matrix abuse templates, or the false mother abuse templates of the matrix. So the matrix, the false matrix, was created to be an inorganic simulation that is based upon true energetic law. And all energy cycles begin upon a motherboard, or what we call a matrix. And that motherboard is the determining factor for every single cycle and timeline you will then create, unless you go back and you recode that motherboard to then create cycles and timelines that are in accordance with your truth. Are you seeing yet why in the false matrix they purposely poisoned women against one another, but very specifically they purposely made motherhood a chore? Okay, so in the false matrix, women are set up to compete for resources from the beginning. And this sometimes shows itself up, oftentimes invisibly, but it's still there, in mother and daughter competition. So maternal hatred is designed as a part of the false matrix abuse templates to injure daughters and their feminine energy this way, and then for them to continue in their own motherhood to propagate, potentialize, and perpetuate these templates until you create cycles that become so ingrained in us, and we call them tradition and we call them normal, but really they're forms of bullying, abuse, and control that actually were designed to set people up to be energy harvested. Okay, so its ultimate design is to break and control their feminine power. So I'm talking about maternal hatred, especially as it pertains to the mother-daughter relationship, but it happens with mothers and sons too. It's mothers and children. It just plays itself out differently with mothers and daughters, because daughters are the keepers of the creation and the matrix codes that they will then pass along to their own offspring. So it plays itself out in sons in a different way. So in sons and in men, it's designed to support this, whereas women are designed to create and to continue manifesting it. So this, like maternal hatred with daughters design, its ultimate design is to break and control divine feminine power, and to turn a lot of women into abusers and perpetuators of these toxic cycles, right? Or to turn the abused into scapegoats who are fed upon as batteries for these abusers. So there are two possible routes for this behavior. One is that the women, the keepers of these creation and matrix codes, either become abusers themselves or they become scapegoats. Either role feeds into the energy harvesting dynamics that were necessary for keeping the synthetic grids of the false matrix alive and suppressing the true organic grids, the true organic motherboards that were designed to propagate harmony, love, peace, acceptance, all of those things that once existed on the earth before the false matrix came in and overlaid everything using the same technologies that are designed to perpetuate divinity and harmony on the earth, but using it in an inverted way to create synthetic responses, and then systemically setting up programs and institutions that taught us that this was life and taught us ways to be that actually were designed to feed the abuse and bullying narratives that kept these synthetic grids and their accompanying entities alive. So, abusive cycles and dynamics are rooted upon energy harvesting templates. They're always. So abusive cycles and dynamics are always rooted upon energy harvesting templates. Okay, so whole and secure people, they don't abuse others and they don't allow for themselves to be abused. When you're whole and in your organic power and truth, you're not an abuser and you don't allow yourself to be abused. Okay, so the false matrix created and exploited this abuse to keep everyone fragmented, abusers included. So female siblings and brothers, and for some of you, if you're only children, this would have extended into like cousins and even in the school setup with friends, because the family system is just the original template for energy harvesting and bullying dynamics. It's just to what degree, right? And it's set up that way, and it's called tradition, right? And that's why so many of you have been born into families that rejected you, because you saw this for what it was, and their own distortions, woundedness, the entities that they've allowed to run through them, wanted to reject that in you because they didn't want to heal or to change. And oftentimes the ones who don't want to heal or to change are the ones who are benefiting in the false matrix from these abusive dynamics. Or in some cases, they are the ones who in childhood have been very much bullied and abused themselves, and they almost see it as a rite of passage when they become adults to be able to do the same thing, almost like enacting vengeance upon their abusers for what they did, but instead of actually doing that, taking it out on the next generation. So female siblings and brothers and cousins, etc., who operated more in their feminine energy were implemented very specifically to shut down your sacred feminine flow. And let's talk a little bit about what your sacred feminine energy allows for you to do. Your sacred feminine energy is very connected to your magnetism, your ability to call in things that match your frequency and to therefore build cycles and timelines based upon the truth of who you are. And when that magnetism is distorted, then what you begin to attract are more beings who have more beings who are like the ones who have been programming you into distortion. So a lot of the time you hear this bullshit in the spiritual community about how you attract abuse. And, you know, I don't like that. I don't like the way that vernacular is used, because oftentimes it's very victim shaming and it's designed to make you feel bad as if this is something you want. But there is truth in that. You do attract abuse, but not because it's something you want, but because you've been energetically encoded systemically, familially, and maternally, and oftentimes by those beings who are in your family dynamic to be abused. And that's what your emotional body has programmed as love, or that's what your emotional body has programmed through repetition of those behaviors and through your own programming into being devalued. Okay, so in that sense, you attract abuse because you've been electromagnetically, or you've been energetically programmed against your own magnetic truth. Your sacred feminine energy is also there to help you to discern distortions. And everything in the false matrix, when you were scapegoated and bullied, was designed to gaslight you out of this. That's another way. And they did it in a myriad of ways by telling you that you were crazy, that you were seeing too much into things, you're too sensitive, you're overreacting. And then because of all of the trauma that was inflicted upon you, because of all of the fuckery and how it might have caused you to self-destruct in some ways, then that was used against you too, to make it seem as if what it is you're experiencing or seeing isn't valid because you're quote unquote a fuck up, or whatever, you know, language they try to use to devalue you and invalidate your reality and your experience. And it's all designed to blindside you and to gaslight you out of really utilizing the fullness of your divine feminine intuition to call things out as they are. Because when you call things out as they are and you stand in your power, then those grids and the people supporting those abusive and bullying narratives, they can no longer hide. And the energy constructs that held up their ability to do what they did begin to become dismantled and to dissipate. So your sacred feminine energy is very responsible, like I said, for your magnetism and for your ability to discern correctly. Your feminine side is your left side, okay? It's your left side. Hence the reason why in the dream I was seeing myself on the left side of the house, and I saw the war paint. And also why when I woke up and something was trying to oppress me, it was on the left side. And also you might notice, like, and I've said this before, in many of these, these orders that they try to, call people into in the false matrix for celebrity, for fame, or for success, oftentimes they cover up one eye. And that's to show the domination they have over the sacred feminine energy that is responsible not only in you on a personal level for exposing these abusive dynamics and templates, but in the false matrix on the whole, divine feminine energy flows for the correction of distortion. So at every turn, they did their best to distort and to bind it in us as individuals and in the collective stream of how energy flowed. So to go back to the siblings. So female siblings, brothers, cousins, etc., who operated more in their feminine energy, they were implemented to shut down your sacred feminine flow. And these siblings are the ones who bully, they block, and they control you past childhood, because they have learned how to siphon you through your womb and your sacral. They have hooks in your solar plexus because your main emotional developmental stage was spent with them bullying, abusing, or shutting you down. And they continue to try and gaslight you into believing their behavior is normal and you're the problem, which is third eye fuckery. It's gaslighting, right? Then they also seek to silence you through throat chakra blocks to uphold the family bullying complex. They benefit for as long as you're scapegoated. They benefit for as long as they have control over your energy field. A lot of the time when they have their hooks, and they have their hooks in all of your main energy fields, but these are the ones we're going to talk about today. When they're able to control your sacral energy, they begin to magnetize things that are meant for you. They begin to draw confidence off of abusing you, and they are able to use that energy of false confidence they get from being abusers and bullies to call in things that are ultimately meant for you. When they have their hooks in your solar plexus, they begin to control your reality. Your solar plexus is connected to your embodiment and of your ability to be the I am. It's how you begin to actualize divine will, when divine will becomes yours. If somebody else has their claws in your solar plexus, they become your I am. Their will, in other words, becomes yours. And it happens that way through bullying, through enforcement, and also through emotional manipulation, because your solar plexus is the seat of your internalized childhood wounding, as well as, your shine, your confidence, all of those other things, but we're talking about the woundedness. Your internalized childhood wounding, how you have emotionally connected to experiences in childhood, it's stored in your solar plexus. And through repetition with these beings harming you and bullying you, they set up authority over your solar plexus. Have you ever been in an experience where your childhood bullies enter a room and you're an adult and all of a sudden you're silent and you don't know how to act, you can't stand up for yourself, you feel in your body yourself shrinking? That is very clear evidence that those beings are controlling your solar plexus. Okay? Your throat chakra. This is, the throat chakra is shut down in a myriad of ways. But one of them is, like, if you were a person who saw the bullying for what it was, and you began to speak on it, you were shut down, you were silenced, you were told to shut up, you were called a myriad of things in order to detract from what was actually happening, right? Or if you were a person who was just very sensitive and the bullying made you afraid to speak, that's a throat chakra block also, right? And that's to stop you from being able to speak your truth. Another way the throat chakra is blocked is through gossip. Gossip is a form of energetic tampering because just like in the dream I was having, its main design is to get a whole group of people to gang stalk you energetically by devaluing you, making up stories about you, and causing you some kind of despair in doing so. The despair can be to shut you down. The despair can be so other people move away from you. It can materialize in a manner of ways, but gossip is a really insidious form of it's witchcraft, and not good witchcraft. Let's put it that way. And I've talked about some of this. I did a video on the sword suit in the tarot and how the false matrix sets you up to be disempowered through mental magic, right? And the beauty of the tarot is that it actually shows you on every level how energy goes from, being etheric and infinite to coming into being. That's what the suits show: the wands, the swords, the cups, and the pentacles, right? The wands is the spiritual energy, the intangible. And swords is how that energy begins to move through your mental body, through how you think, and through others, how others interject and try to control the way that you think about yourself and the world. And then what that produces comes through the cups, which is the emotional body. Everything's born through the water, through the element of water. That's what cups is. That's what the emotional fields are. Your dreams are connected to the emotional body. Cancer as a sign is the first water sign of the zodiac, which is already telling you it's here to help you reset your waters. Okay, and then pentacles is how you begin to materialize, how these things become physically tangible in your reality. They become your timelines. Okay, so if you want to understand and overstand how energy flows through the mental body and how it becomes something actualized, the sword suit shows you that, and it shows you how the false matrix tried to thwart you through every single card. So if I remember, I will try to put the link for that below, and I will tell you I did that video in late August of 2023, okay? Okay, so a big part of the throat chakra blocks, like I said, it's to keep you silent so that you can't speak up against the distorted group dynamics that all of these other beings in some way, shape, or form are benefiting from, or some of them, they just have bought the lie that they're too weak to be anything else. They're not even able to see the possibility past what it is that this dynamic offers them. And those are the ones who are like the flying monkeys, the ones who get called in, like in the dream with the celebrity actress who called in this group of young, naive women who instantly believed what she had to say. Those are flying monkeys, right? And they are designed to come together, strengthen numbers, to further invalidate you and have you weakened and doubting yourself and afraid and intimidated of speaking your truth and standing in your power. Okay, so all of this shit is what is clearing. This is the mean girl templates that were designed to intimidate you out of your divine feminine power, your power to magnetize what is rightfully yours, your power to live in your asserted truth, your power to know who you are and to utilize the power of your own third eye and intuition to see past the veils of illusion. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment now to share with you some of the decrees I have that are available that might help you also in clearing this season, because I've had a few people come back to me and be like, well, when's the best time to use your decrees, or could you do a video about that? And so I decided just to include in this message some of the decrees that might work. And I just want to tell you again, my decrees are for free or by inspired donation, okay? And I do appreciate every way you contribute towards my ability to continue to put this work out there. But I realize that many of you are in dire financial binds because of this energetic fuckery. So some of the decrees, I've just released one today that I was working on ahead of time, and then my guidance was to synchronize it with the release of this, right? So this decree is very specific. It's about mother line curse breaking and maternal hatred reversal. And it's for the reclamation of what was lost through the false matrix's mother wounding templates, and to end lineages that have been fueled by silent hatred and all that that encompasses, including the fuckery of the gang stalking, right? So that one has literally, it's at the top of my Ko-Fi shop. It was literally just released a few hours ago. And I will put all the information for these decrees is going to be in the description box below and in the pinned comment section. Okay, some of these decrees have audio versions. Also, some of them I haven't gotten to the audio versions yet. The second decree I would highly recommend is the breaking parental overlays and foundational misprogramming. Third one would be breaking out of the role of generational curse breaker decree. The fourth one would be breaking false family binds decree. The fifth one would be breaking ancestral domination and false family covenants. So those would be my 5 top decrees for assisting you in already what is occurring, but helping you to anchor in by stating your place in all of this. Okay, a few other ones that might be of help or of note to you would be my cease and desist decree, which is it's a declaration, so it's shorter. So it's when you need to put entities on notice so they stop their fuckery in your fields instantly. Pressing charges for spiritual crimes. Those are for that one's for those of you who have had people consciously doing work to fuck with you. Like, there's work that occurs through people's unconscious wounding, and then there are people who are purposely trying to thwart and to block you. And the pressing charges for spiritual crimes is for those scenarios. And then also the destiny swap reversal decree might be good for you, because a lot of times what this kind of fuckery within families where you're being scapegoated, or there's this gang stalking energy that is happening to you, what occurs, like I said to you, is that what is meant for you begins to be filtered and siphoned and sent to other beings, the ones who are controlling your energy. And in that, your destiny is swapped, meaning that they're getting things that belong to you. So the destiny swap reversal decree might be of use to you. So as you begin to clear this, or as you've been clearing this, these players may be showing up in your dreams. Okay, they may be showing up in your dreams. And I want to say here, not to be afraid. Because I know from personal experience, when this began for me, because these beings had so much control over my emotional field through bullying and abuse, my first emotional instinct was to be afraid. So when I'd wake up, I'd often be afraid, until I began to really understand what was going on and to take my power back. And also I want to say to you, it's very powerful when these energies seek to siphon you, because that's what they're trying to do a lot of the time through the dream state also, is to get back some kind of control they've lost over you because you've become more empowered in your truth. And if they can't do that to you in the physical anymore, they will try to show up to you on the dreamscape to once again invert your timelines on the 4th dimension, right? So a really powerful thing to always remember is that if something or someone is trying to access your energy to energy harvest, the connection goes both ways. Meaning that they might be trying to call things from you, but the minute you stand in your power and you don't allow yourself to be drawn into a frequency of fear, you're able to call back not only what they're trying to take in that moment, you're able to call back everything they've taken across time. But you've got to know that you can't cower in fear. You've got to realize the line goes both ways. If they're trying to take from you, the line for you to take back is there too, but you must be in frequential alignment to hold that, meaning you must be in your power and not in fear. The left side domination, I talked about that, a little bit. the left side domination, it's very, very prominent for those of you with Freemasonry, secret society, and governmental programming. Okay, those of you whose family members have pledged themselves to secret societies, orders, fraternities, sororities, three-letter government programs in order to rise in the false matrix. A lot of the time, that left side domination will play itself out for you. You'll feel it in your body. That's nothing to fear again. Remember, you are your own chief programmer. You've just forgotten, and it's time to remember. And this is also because the form of psychic control they used in these orders was very specifically targeting your divine feminine power, because the divine feminine energy is the creatress. She is there to create all the templates upon which life and cycles are then repeated. So if they can get you to create false matrices, they can get you to hold false cycles and false timelines. So the ones who join these groups and orders, they are contracting themselves to become perpetrators and instigators and promoters of the violence against the divine feminine rising on the earth. Okay? So I'm going to go through some of the symptoms and the pathology of some of this, right? What you might have experienced materially in your timelines if your ability to create your own matrices have been hijacked, or if you've gone through this kind of scapegoating, mean girl, false matrix abuse that was perpetrated oftentimes through maternal hatred and then perpetuated through those who were under that influence too. So we've already talked about throat chakra blocks and what those are. You might have experienced fertility issues and creative blocks. Fertility issues literally in terms of being able to conceive or being able to carry a baby full term. And even for some of you who've been able to do that, you may have experienced a lot of complications in pregnancy. Creative blocks is very similar. It's a miscarrying energy. So you're able to think of things. You're very creative. You're very influential. You're very intuitive. You're very you're a visionary, right? But you're never able to bring your creations into full fruition. And another way you see this playing out is if you see the very beings who have been plugged into your energy field being able to use your creative energy to create off of your templates. Okay? Financial blocks, because your ability to magnetize everything that is rightfully yours in accordance with who you are and the purpose you've been sent to fulfill on the earth requires financial support. So if you have experienced financial blocks, especially since the more you awaken, the more they step in, right? You've experienced issues with people supporting your work, investing in you, etc. Those kinds of financial blocks, it can be tied to this. And this list is not, it's just a few things. It's not completely everything. These are just the things that I can tell you from personal experience, my own journey, and working with clients. Okay, so digestive and autoimmune disorders. Your digestive system is connected to your ability to hold wealth. In the tarot, the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles, which is the sublimation of your ability to bring forth abundance materially and to then create your own legacy. Those are cards of Virgo. And Virgo, minor arcana cards connected to Virgo. And Virgo is the sign of the zodiac that is connected to your digestion. Okay? So that in and of itself is telling you and showing you the significance of your digestive system when it comes to creating and sustaining wealth. So those of you who have been used as a battery, energy harvested and blocked for the purpose of this, you might experience digestive issues. And that is a sign of the energetic tampering that occurs in both the solar plexus and the sacral chakra very specifically, okay, and the rerouting of your wealth to others. Another really important thing that I feel I should point out, and I began to really notice this when I started to take on clients, is that a lot of you who've dealt with gallbladder issues, that's also to do with those of you who have been used as containers for other people's karma. The gallbladder, everything is connected. The physical is only a reflection of the invisible, the metaphysical, however you want to look at it. The gallbladder as a physical organ is there to help you break down and digest fat. Fat is the most complex macronutrient that you can take in, meaning that it's the macronutrient that is very dense in energy, very dense. I'm going to say that again, that word is important, dense in energy, which is why it's the hardest thing to shift, right? So it's hard to begin to burn fat, because fat is what your body holds on to for security, but also it's so dense that it's difficult to shift. It's supposed to be somewhat protective, except when it's there in your body in excess. Okay, so those of you who've struggled with gallbladder issues and even cholesterol issues that don't make sense in terms of your dietary choices, it can be indicative of the fact that you have been used as a container to hold other people's dense emotions that they don't want to take responsibility for. So a lot of my clients, I started to notice, had their gallbladders removed or had gallbladder issues. Okay, I've had serious issues with my gallbladder that I've had to clear very, very vehemently through nutritional protocols, right, and herbal protocols. So that is an indication of what's happening in your energy field, right? What occurs in your body. Liver health also, okay? Depression and anxiety. Depression and anxiety is another symptom of this, right? Eating disorders and addictions, because oftentimes these addictions and eating disorders are part of like impulse control. A lot of the time, eating disorders occur in people who are trying to control their reality because of abusive or unstable dynamics. It's actually very little to do with image. Even if image is something that propels a person, the deeper foundation for that behavior is born oftentimes in low self-worth that is a result of bullying, of abuse or of an unstable developmental start. So addictions are oftentimes their coping mechanisms. They're coping mechanisms. You'll notice that most people who struggle with addictions are the ones who are really sensitive and they don't know how to cope in the world because of their sensitivity. And that's not a reflection of them being, something being wrong with them. It's a reflection of them responding to the dysfunction within the world, right? And so addiction is a coping mechanism that these groups then use against you if you fall into addiction to further shame you and keep you trapped. So a lot of the time, the dynamics that they set up and they perpetuate are what drive you to addiction, and then they use your addiction to shame you, to exacerbate your wounding, and to enable you further and to exploit that wound so you keep producing those negligent cycles for yourself, and therefore you keep them able to produce their false realities too, which feel good to them. Obsessive compulsive disorders because of the trauma, relational issues, repeated failed romances and friendships, parental, if you're a parent, parental hardship, difficulty knowing how to connect to your children or knowing how to be a parent, or feeling really lost or feeling really ashamed of your abilities as a parent. All of this is connected, okay? And the relational issues are there because in your formative years, you were taught to reject yourself in order to relate to others and to not even be accepted, but to be tolerated. Arrested development and failure to thrive. the inability, and oftentimes arrested development and failure to thrive is because you've been so severely traumatized and you haven't been able to process and get past that trauma, and you get stuck, and that creates a looping cycle. The repeat, quote unquote, attraction of predators and predatory-like behavior, both romantically and platonically. And bear in mind that the predatory behavior isn't always obvious. It can be, and oftentimes if you stick around long enough, it does become very obvious. But a lot of the time, that predatory behavior that you attract is very subtle, and you've been groomed and programmed energetically to magnetize it, because that's what you've been taught you deserve on one level, on a mental level, but within your own energy field. That's what your energy field has been reprogrammed to call in towards you. Okay? Now this is an interesting one, right? So you might have had, especially women, a whole bunch of female friends that have this false sister, false mother archetype. So these are women who act in distorted maternal ways. Right? And because so many of you are unconsciously searching for maternal, or were unconsciously searching for maternal validation and nurturance, you became very open to this kind of energy. And these females carry distorted maternal energy. They try to control your expression, your narrative, your perception, and your experiences through subtle gaslighting that is designed to keep you blinded and to make you feel and think that they have your best interest at heart. This subtle gaslighting will often line up with the social doctrines that we've been indoctrinated with and programmed and taught are normal behaviors, right? Although really it's bullying in disguise. So you then end up looking like the crazy one or the unhinged one, because it's bullying. It's bullying in disguise, right? So they then weaponize your supposed mental and emotional instability against you. So when you begin to react and call them out on things, they'll begin to weaponize that against you, and social programming backs them up. And then that's when they call in their flying monkeys, etc., etc. And they do this very specifically to control you and to keep you blinded. To control you and to keep you blinded and to keep you small and to keep you in the container where you can continue to be siphoned. And they also use gossip to turn others against you or to devalue you in the eyes of others. I'm going to share with you a few years ago when I was still waking up to this, and this was, the last time it happened for me. There was this woman who was a neighbor who I was like glowing at the time, like I was just awakening, I was coming into my power, but I was still very naive. I don't want to say naive. I was just very open still, and I still had a lot to do in terms of working through my mother wounding. I knew none of the stuff I'm sharing with you guys right now. And this woman was older, and she took a liking to me, and went very far to befriend me. And I befriended her, I confided in her, but then there were little things I started to notice about her. I started to notice that she wasn't very nice to her animals. That was one thing. Then I started to notice that she had 3 children, and there was one child who was the troubled child, and you always find them in these dynamics, the troubled child. And I noticed that within the dynamic with her 3 children, I could see how the energy was working. So the middle child was just like one of the flying monkeys, was very passive and very connected to the mother, and so just kind of would go along with anything. The older child was the bully, was the one who had taken that maternal hatred and was using it against the child who was troubled. And they had this whole narrative in the family that the troubled child was a problem, and they'd gossip about her together, and they'd even gossip about her with strangers. They gossiped about her in front of me, and that's when I started distancing myself from her. And then I began to notice that she unfollowed me on Instagram when I started to talk about toxic family dynamics, but continued to kiki and smile in my face. And I began to distance myself because I began to realize that this troubled child was actually being energy harvested. And she showed up to me in a dream one time, the troubled child, to ask me for help. And I began to realize at that point, she's a starseed. And what I also began to notice was that not only was she being siphoned, but everything that was actually meant to be hers was going towards the older sibling who was the bully, carrying that maternal hatred that she was projecting towards her. And from that point on, it was a good learning experience, but I removed myself, and I noticed also in my own energy how, since becoming a friend of hers, my own confidence had begun to decline. And I noticed when something very important occurred for me that, I had been waiting for and I'd been needing for my own survival came in. She wasn't happy for me at all. And I began to realize you like to take in wounded people and keep them wounded. And that's what you do with your children. And that's what you attempted to do to me. And because I'm so used to that kind of behavior, because that was my whole family life, that's who I was. I was the wounded one that had to stay wounded in order for nobody to face their true wounding, which was actually what was wounding me. I realized that I had attracted that, and I began to see how much of my female friendships I had sought maternal assurance from these women who were actually scavengers. And I do believe that they are literally characters within the false matrix simulation that are groomed and designed to be that way, very specifically through family engineering and social engineering. Okay, so what I wrote here is that these women, oftentimes, they're false matrix handlers. And bear in mind, again, this can be men, but they will be operating again in their distorted feminine energy, trying to use their ability to nurture you to actually disable you. These are false matrix handlers who were groomed in their family energy systems to uphold and be loyal to the subtle bullying and energy harvesting dynamics because they were taught this is normal and it's healthy socializing. And if you've been dealing with this, you've quote unquote attracted them because it is all you've known, and you've literally been energetically wired to call these people towards you. A lot of these so-called friends will exhibit the same traits and behaviors as siblings or as your abusive mother. And it's all part of what I call the mean girl gang stalking program, designed to minimize, devalue, silence, and keep you from recovering your divine feminine truth, and therefore liberating your energy field for your own use and for your own abundance. Okay, we're like an hour in. I don't think I'm going to get into cards tonight but I have some guidance already here. That's what we're about to get into. Okay, so there's a very specific message that's coming through here. Okay, and that is that you are trustworthy. So this message is for those of you who have been victimized by these behaviors, and in doing so, you've been made to feel like you can't trust yourself, you can't trust your judgment, you can't look after yourself. You've been put into that box of being so wounded that you always need these people to help you be strong, right? You are trustworthy. This person or group wound you up in many layers of narratives that were designed for you to doubt yourself and to be insecure. But that's not your truth. So you found yourself caught up in this web of lies that you have internalized as your truth, but it's not your truth. It's their own wounding and need to control because they don't know how to control themselves. It's their need to do that they've outsourced, and they've wrapped you up in this storyline that they need in order to feel powerful, that has then disempowered you only because you've believed it to be true. So this doubt and insecurity that has been coded into you. You made decisions from this state, not from your empowered state, right? And the decisions you made were totally unaligned with who you actually are. And what this tends to do is it produces chaotic and unstable timelines, which they then turn around and shame you for. So in other words, they set you up in their storyline to be wounded and to be a fuck up. And because you internalize that as your truth, that's what you begin to create, because that's how powerful you are. And then that gives them the opportunity to turn around and say, see, I told you so. You're fucked up. You're this, you're that, you're weak. You need me. You don't have good judgment. You're not trustworthy. You can't do anything with your life, etc., etc. All the ways they can reinforce their fake story is made possible when you believe the story and begin to create timelines and realities that are so self-destructive and dysfunctional as a result. It further seals you into the belief that you have no judgment, that you can't be trusted, that you're unstable, and that you need them or somebody to tell you how to be. Remember, these are false handlers who want to master you and your destiny. So they need you under the thumb of their control. They need you looking to them like they're your God and like you're not able to do things for yourself. You need their guidance. You don't. All of this, especially if this is resonating with you, it's broken. Their control over you in dream state, which is major, is broken. You've been taking your power back from this mean girl trio, duo, or group and seeing how powerful you are when you're grounded and not buying into their narratives and lies. You're seeing that when you stopped listening to them and you started to become the author of your own reality in accordance with your ability to tap back into your power and your truth, how everything that you were creating before starts to shift. Scenarios like this are set up to harvest certain individuals, and they tend to be those whose energy is so potent that it has a huge effect on a collective energy expression. I'm going to say that again. Those who are targeted by these beings tend to be people whose energy is so potent, it has a huge effect on the collective energy expression. And that's to do within groups and within the collective global picture. You were purposely, your energy is so potent, in other words, that it can shift entire cycles and energetic expressions and timelines. So if they can keep you traumatized, they can keep producing trauma dynamics and trauma timelines because, let's be real, these people who are operating in this energy, even if they are getting false matrix trinkets, they are severely traumatized. They are still perpetuating trauma. And for that trauma to continue, they need somebody who's a generator of that. And generators of that energy tend to be people who are very powerful in their energy to shift entire collective pictures. So they target you for that reason, not because you're weak, but because that's how potent you are. You'll know if this is you, if you know that you have the ability to shift the entire energy of a room or of people. That's not a coincidence. Sometimes it's a choice, but even in a choice, it's because that's what you hold. Okay? So they know this about you, or sometimes it's not even conscious, but they have this, they feel threatened by it because they can't do it themselves. And then also, let's not forget that many of these people are overrun by entities, because that's what the false matrix connects people to when they perpetually pretend to be something they're not, which is what the false matrix was run off of, everyone pretending to be what they're not, divinely. So they traumatize and destabilize you to control your narrative, because in doing so, your energy destabilizes the collectives, or it keeps the collective in the same destabilized state. and it leaves the masses open to be controlled too. So in other words, your energy is so influential that if you can be controlled, then whole groups of people can fall under that control, the controlling system of the false matrix that needed abusers and the abused, siphoners and the siphoned. Okay, so what was coming in very, very strongly was camphor. Okay, so camphor. Camphor is very powerful for breaking energetic holds. You can buy it it tends to come in different forms. It comes in a tablet form. And in the tablet form, what was coming through is that to continue to take control over your own dream state and to protect yourself as you sleep, you can take 4 camphor tablets and you can grid your own bed. Each on every corner, put a camphor tablet and secure it under your fitted sheet. And every few weeks, you can change that camphor tablet because it will begin to lose its potency. Something that's really that has a lot of camphor in it, that's really inexpensive is like Vicks Vapor Rub. That's camphor. That really strong smell is in camphor. Tiger Balm is another one that has a lot of camphor, so you can use those also. You can get pure camphor essential oil, and you can put it on your bed sheets, and you can put it on yourself, on your clothes when you go to sleep. It's very powerful. It's a decongestant. A lot of the time, herbs that work as decongestants work as very powerful clarifiers of energy, especially mental energy, because decongestion happens mostly in the upper parts of the body, right? And that's where the mental planes are very much connected. It's with this part of the body. So when this part is stuffed up, the things that you use to decongest yourself can be very powerful for clarifying your mental energy. So camphor is great. Peppermint's very powerful for clearing your mental energy. Aniseed is very powerful. Also, we talked about that. It came out in the last reading that we did, aniseed. Right? Sage, of course, sage oil, rosemary, very powerful mental clarifiers to root you in your mental power. Now, the only thing is that sometimes they can be a little bit stimulating if you're a person who suffers with, who's sensitive to smells that keep you alert, right? So just be aware of that. But camphor is very powerful. Another way you can use camphor is you can use it, like I said, you can use it in a diffuser, the oil, and you can also take the tablets and put it in a steaming pot. So what you would do is you take a tablet, break it up, put it in some water, boil that water and use the steam to clear. Then you can take the water once it's cooled and you can put it in a bowl. You can put it underneath your bed as you rest. You can program that water to keep your dream state clear. You can even do this with regular water, right? You can put a bowl of water underneath your bed, program it to keep your dream state clear. Remember, dreams are connected to the element of water. You can put bowls all over your room, the corners of the room, the doorway, if you're dealing with things coming through interdimensionally as you sleep, okay? And then there was another really powerful thing that was coming through. And I'm going to leave this to you intuitively or as confirmation, right? So use your spit to seal your words. Use your spit to seal your words, right? Your words, you've ever heard that statement, my word is my bond, my bond? You know what a bond is? A bond is something that binds, right? Bind your words to what it is that you want to be bonded to, and not in a fucked up or power, like fake power narrative. No, in taking your own power back and what it is that you have said is acceptable for your energy based upon who you are and cosmological law, right? So using your own DNA expression to take back your power can be very powerful when you know how to direct the energy and use those things as potent materials that that solidify what it is you're doing and also identify you, because nobody else has your DNA. No one else has your finger. Nobody else has that DNA expression, Okay. Whew. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's it. Yes. Okay, I'm glad I got that transmission out, because it's been wanting, like, for the past 24 hours. I was just like, I need to do this message. And then when I realized the 6/6 portal significance, I was like, I need to get it done today. And I need to get that decree completely finished and polished for today too, so that people have access to it for this, this video, but also for this time, because the new moon in Cancer is in a few hours too, right? So anyway, I hope that this was helpful and insightful, inspiring and empowering and activating. If it was, please make sure to hit the like, share this video with those who you know need this information for their own liberation too. Let's get these messages out into the world so that everyone can be free. All information for how to work with me will be in the description box below. I offer one-to-ones, 60 and 90-minute soul recovery sessions, as I call them. I also, for those of you who want your tarot astrology done, I do tarot astrology readings, only audio and one-to-ones via video as of now. What else? I have my decrees. I have some other things on my Ko-Fi shop. I have a lot of decrees on my Ko-Fi shop, not just the ones listed. I have a sacred bathing manual for cleansing, both in audio and written format, spiritual warfare manual, egg cleansing manual. Trying to think what else. I think that's it. So check out my Ko-Fi shop and see if there are things in there. And like I said, the decrees are all for free or inspired donation. So go and see what's speaking to you and what can help you. And like I've said before, but I will reiterate it now, my decrees are there to be templates for you. You don't have to use my words as I've written them. They are there to let you know what is available and possible for you. So if you want to take it and use it as a template to craft your own decree and to learn how to write your own decree so that in any given situation you can just write, I highly recommend you do so. Okay? What else? Yeah, make sure I am not a person who posts on here on a schedule. I post as I'm able to and as I'm moved to do so. So make sure you hit the notification bell if you want to know when I post. Okay? If you want to connect with me on the daily, you can do so through my platform, solarah.xyz. This is where I do all my writing. I'm also a writer. And so my daily alchemies are little 2-paragraph daily energy readings and guidance for you to help you get through your day and your alchemical process. Those are available for free on solarah.xyz. I do post them occasionally on the community board when I'm able to, but if you want to get access to them every single day or get them sent directly to your mailbox, then you can sign up over on solarah.xyz. There's also membership tiers if you would like to receive more of my writing. I also do audio readings, etc., in accordance with tiers. And in my Jade membership tier, I meet with my members once a month, and we get together in a group online meeting. So all the information for that is on solarah.xyz. If you're having any technical difficulties on the platform, please make sure to email me and let me know. solarahspeaks@proton.me. Okay, and final thing I'm going to say also is for those of you who are interested in helping me to come together with the creation of a Tao in order to fight against spiritual crimes and to resource victims of spiritual crimes. And please, if you have tools, if you have connections, if you'd like to invest in some way, email me at solarahspeaks@proton.me and we will set up a meeting. Thank you to all of you who donate to my work. You make it possible for me to continue and to be in the balanced energy I need to be in to show up and do what it is I came here to do in the world. And I appreciate you. I appreciate, the smallest of donations to those of you who are able to give even more. I thank you so much, okay? I will see you again soon. I wish you a very happy new moon in Cancer. I will be back tomorrow on my channel, Solarah Rises, with your new moon in Cancer Tarot Astrology Ascension report. So don't miss that if you'd like to know what comes through. Until then, be well.